Imagine standing on 5 feet of ice with 2 miles of ocean beneath you and absolutely no way home. You are standing on a sheet of ice only 5 feet thick. Beneath you, 2 miles of freezing black ocean. Behind you, the only home you have, your ship, is being slowly crushed to death by the earth itself. Most men would pray for a quick end, but Sir Ernest Shackleton was not most men. But here is the moment that changes everything. 45 seconds into the greatest tragedy in maritime history, Shackleton didn't reach for a map. He didn't reach for a gun. He looked at his men, and he gave an order so brutal, so heart-wrenching, that it still haunts the journals of the survivors today. He told them to destroy the very things they loved most, so they could survive the impossible. The year was 1914. While the rest of the world was preparing to burn itself down in World War I, Ernest Shackleton was looking for a different kind of glory. He wanted to walk across the entire continent of Antarctica. He put an ad in a London newspaper. It read, "Men wanted for hazardous journey, small wages, bitter cold, long months of complete darkness, constant danger, safe return, doubtful, honor and recognition in case of success." 5,000 men applied. He chose 27. They sailed on a ship named the Endurance, a masterpiece of Norwegian wood, built to withstand the ice. But Shackleton's hubris was his first mistake. He ignored the warnings of local whalers. They told him the ice that year was different. It was aggressive. It was alive. As they pushed into the Weddell Sea, the white walls closed in. On January 18th, 1915, the ocean simply stopped moving. The Endurance was no longer a ship. It was a prisoner. For the next 10 months, the Endurance drifted, not by engine, but by the will of the currents. They were trapped in a giant ice floe, thousands of miles from the nearest human being. Then, Column disappeared. In Antarctica, winter means 24 hours of pitch-black darkness. Imagine the mental toll. 28 men trapped in a wooden box, surrounded by a frozen desert. Shackleton knew if his men lost their minds, they would lose their lives. So he turned the ship into a stage. He forced them to put on plays, to sing, to play soccer on the ice, and to race their sled dogs. But beneath the fun was a terrifying reality. The ice was breathing. As the tides shifted, millions of tons of pressure heaved against the ship's hull. The men described the sound as the screaming of a dying animal. Nights were spent listening to the wood groan and the rivets pop out like bullets. Shackleton slept in his clothes every single night, waiting for the one sound he dreaded, the sound of the hull finally snapping. On October 27th, 1915, the Earth won. The ice pierced the hull of the Endurance. Water flooded the engine room. Shackleton stood on the deck, calm as a statue, and said the words that would begin their true nightmare. "She's going, boys. Abandon ship." They stood on the ice and watched as their only link to the world was swallowed by the sea. Imagine that feeling, watching your home sink, knowing nobody in the world knows where you are. No radio, no GPS, no hope. This is where Shackleton's fatal order returned. To move across the ice, they had to be light. They had to kill the youngest sled dogs. They had to leave behind personal treasures. Shackleton took his gold watch and his Bible, ripped out the pages he wanted, and threw the rest into the snow to show his men that nothing mattered except the next step. They lived on the ice for 5 more months. They ate seals. They ate penguins. Eventually, they ate their own dogs. They lived in canvas tents, constantly soaked in freezing salt water. Their skin began to rot. Their eyes burned red from smoke and wind. And then, the ice beneath their feet began to break. The floe split in half. Shackleton realized they had one chance. They launched 3 tiny lifeboats into the most violent ocean on Earth, the Southern Ocean. For 7 days, they rode through waves as high as buildings. Men vomited from seasickness. Others froze to their seats. When they reached Elephant Island, they were ghosts of men. They hadn't slept in a week. But Elephant Island was a tomb. No ship would ever pass it. Shackleton made a choice that defied logic. He took the smallest boat, the James Caird, and 5 men. He planned to sail 800 miles across the Drake Passage, the deadliest water on Earth. Midway through the journey, a wave hit them. Not a wave, a mountain of water. They were nearly capsized. They chipped ice from the masts with bare hands so the boat wouldn't sink from the weight. After 16 days of hell, they saw land, but they weren't safe. A hurricane hit them at the coast. They landed on the wrong side of the island. To reach safety, Shackleton and 2 men did something no human had ever done. They crossed the unmapped mountains of South Georgia on foot. No climbing gear, screws as spikes in their boots. They climbed for 36 hours. At one point, they slid down a 3,000-foot slope into darkness, not knowing if a cliff waited below. Finally, they saw smoke. When they entered the whaling station, the manager didn't recognize them. He saw 3 skeletal figures, blackened, bearded, broken. Shackleton asked one question: when did the war end? The answer: the war is still going. The world is mad. It took 4 attempts and 4 months to rescue the rest of the crew. As the rescue ship approached the shore, Shackleton counted. His hands were shaking. They are all there. Every one of them. Not a single soul was lost. After 2 years in the white hell, after losing their ship, their food, their hope, all 28 men returned home. Shackleton failed his mission. But in failing, he taught the world that leadership is not about the destination. It is about making sure that no matter how dark the night gets, everyone makes it home. If this story of impossible survival shook you, if it reminded you what the human spirit can endure, subscribe, because the next story we tell is even more unbelievable.